What's up, guys? This is Naxxion back with the follow-up for my Eldlich for Duelist Advanced. I'm sorry that it took so long to actually get this one out. It's actually not been a great format for the deck, and it's been actually difficult to get a lot of great success, but with numerous online testing and stuff, I'm very happy with the deck profile for the most part. I'm still trying out the Masterpiece stuff, but I won't waste any time. I'll just get right into it by the request. I'm still playing 2 copies of Eldlich the Golden Lord. You can still bump this up to 3 if you really fear about going second, but it's still a very solid card. You know, you don't want to draw it all the time. If you're going first, yeah, you don't really want to. You want to dump this, but you definitely just need the copy. But the third doesn't feel always necessary because you have ways of getting it back. So I'm still playing 2 copies of the Golden Lord. I'm still playing 3 copies of Inspector Border. This card is frustrating at times because there's times where it does conflict, especially with the Masterpiece build because it can give up your normal summon, but it can often just give you another turn if your opponent doesn't have an immediate out and often just win the game. It's a very contentious card still for the deck, but I like it in theory because you need cards that give you advantage, and every time you interact, you need to get multiple advantages off of it. Otherwise, you just fall behind. Because even with all the consistency the deck has now and the speed, you need to make sure that your interactions are going plus for you rather than exchanging, because that's just not how it works anymore. I was playing the 1 copy of the Masterpiece. There have been games I've just straight up won because I've summoned this. And I do like the synergy still with being able to tribute and get rid of some of your back row or maybe floodgates that you just don't want anymore. And it's also really good to pair with floodgates. Of course, with the Eldlich cards being able to plus and all that. And, you know, you do have ways of actually getting monsters on the board, so you can actually get that monster protection. But you can get all 3 with pretty much good ease. I'd definitely bump this up if this was not at 1. In fact, I might actually cut Inspector Border to 2 and move that because it's just better and gives you a... If you see this, you get to go second a little bit easier because now you have a Towers monster that can pop cards. Onto the spells. I can't express enough how important the spell cards are for this profile. You still play 3 Delta. I've had a lot of people try to tell me to cut that down, but even as frustrating as it is to draw multiple copies of it, you still need to see it. It's just one of the best cards. I'm currently playing 3 copies of Sun and Thunder Swamp because I have the emphasis on the Masterpiece stuff. I want this card to be seen. I want to be able to get into Engine, and also the secondary effect of this card actually rocks, being able to plus off. So if I play something like Diagram now, I can pop, let's say I have Eldland on the field, I can pop Eldland, search for Masterpiece. Not only if this is on field, I can now add another Eldland, but Eldland and Grave Void on plus. There's just so much free advantage that you get. And simplified game states, if your opponent has to crash into stuff, you just plus for free off that. And, you know, if you have your Eldliches in Graveyard, you just get to do so much with it. It's probably not the perfect synergy, but it is way better synergy than before. There's a lot of builds out there that just don't have any cards that complement at all. I've seen a lot of decks, actually, right now, trying to, like, fit a small Masterpiece engine, but it doesn't really work for them because there's no real connection. It's actually the one thing I don't like about, like, the Fiendsmith Eldlich variant. I've tried it. And while it's fine, it doesn't complement Eldlich. It doesn't really play with it. Being able to get rid of continuous spells and traps, which this deck has now enough continuous spells to justify the package in the first place. It's just huge, and it can just help further your game style and your plan for when you're going ahead. But yes, Sun and Thunder feels great to draw into it. I'm still playing 3 Eldland, especially now with the Masterpiece, but I mean, I think this card is still ridiculous. It's a free, it go in second, helps you get your Eldlich, break the board, and then of course you have the synergy and follow up with the Grave. I cannot fathom playing less than 3 for like a build like this. If it's like a zombie 60 card, whatever, yeah, I can see it. Right now, I'm set on just playing 3 copies of Extravagance. I'm not a huge fan of Extravagance, but you just need to draw, and that value is just infinite. +2 is just huge. I cut the Prosperity and the Card of Demise because they're just... Prosperity is alright, but I'd rather just draw 2 cards most of the time, and yeah. Being able to do that multiple times feels good, especially right now since the next Vanquish Soul right now is playing it, and, you know, it's huge for them. 1 copy of this and 1 copy of this. I still believe in playing the names because if you discard them, now you can get into Golden Land stuff, but also you have targets. And in Simplified Game States, you know, with how vulnerable the deck is to Bale, Ash, and Bystials and all that, being able to, you know, dodge some of that a little bit more and being able to have variance. And sometimes you just need to shotgun this, get an Eldlich onto the board, and because you have the free link one, the Fallen Angel, you can just do stuff. They're not the best cards, granted, they're not, but they give your deck options. And sometimes when you draw bad, which I draw bad horribly with this deck all the time, even as many hyper power consistency cards as I play, you just need to see names and give more stuff to discard. And of course, for the final spell, I play 1 Terraforming, just because you have Play Diagram and Delta. I don't like set rotation. I've just never liked the card. It just feels bad. I feel like you'd have to play a lot more field spells for it to matter. Plus, if you really want to hate on your opponents, just play Varudris from the Ashen. Onto the traps, you play 3 of this and 3 Conquistador. Still, that doesn't ever change. These are still the best cards that you're going to draw into the deck, and being able to actually do stuff with it. You know, it's just very, very classic, iconic. I don't think these ratios will ever change for this deck unless they just got random trap custom cards. But even then, I think you'd still be playing it. I still play these 2. With the emphasis on the Masterpiece stuff, now you need to keep cards in rotation, but I believe in this card. The only thing that still sucks about this is, for whatever reason, it does not have a grave effect. It is the literal only missing thing, and I feel like Konami was afraid to give it to make it not too strong, but I don't really think they should worry about that. It's not 2020. I play the 1 Hikiro because you have so much more access now with Sun and Thunder Swamp. You only really need to play 1 of this. It's not the end of the world to play another one, but you only really need the 1, and you have ways of getting into it. And right now, even though there is Mitsurugi and stuff, you're not really concerned about that. And the 1 does fine for me anyway. And then you play 1 Apophis. I've looked into playing other trap monsters. I just don't care. The only other one would be the Anguish pattern, but I don't like Anguish for this deck. You don't need those pops, whereas you're playing Odeon, yes, it matters a lot more, but for Apophis, you need to protect your board because you don't have the monsters to get that extra speed, so you need to guarantee that you can protect your board from something stupid like Lightning Storm or Evenly Matched, and being able to just do stuff like that. But it's also now super consistent to get that out with Sun and Thunder Swamp. 3 copies of Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. You still play it. It's an equalizer, and it'll reset your traps, and it can just give you another turn. But yeah, the deck is, even with all the improvements it has, it still just pales often to like the meta. So you have to play a little degenerate. And speaking of, 1 copy of Skill Drain. I'm playing 1 copy of Rivalry and 1 copy of Tikaboo. It hits a lot of decks. You just need to slow your opponent down and just stop them from being able to play the game. You have to. There's no way around it right now. You can't really play mid-range Eldlich, which is how Power Creep is working. And speaking of, I play the 1 Golden Land Forever. Because now you play a lot more cards to get into Engine, this is actually very searchable and much more reliant to get. So it makes up for having to get like the Solemn cards. But speaking of, I'll still play 3 Strike. It's fine. It's good. I mean, yeah, it comes up, but you know, you're playing a very slow deck regardless, and you just kind of need cards like that to out certain cards. On to the extra. playing 2 copies because you're playing Extravagance, and I'm playing 3 copies of the Fallen Angel because this card is nuts. Between that and Link Spider, it's the most important cards that you're going to go into in your extra deck more often than not. 1 copy, not for rarity, sorry, Vitos, the Ashen card. I just got the name wrong. Yeah, you play one of this. Card's nuts. I don't understand some decks that don't play it at all. It comes up all the time. Train package. I mean, you don't really use your extra deck that much, but it is just another option that you get to have and helps in time. Typhon, it really does actually work well with this deck because of the way it plays, more so than other decks. So you play it. 3 copies of Link Spider because it's broken, you need it, and you if you want to play this deck, you must use this card. You're one of Rabbit because of the Sun and Thunder. Even though this is more accessible, you don't actually need to play more than 1 copy of this. Beforehand, I was considering, but you don't need to because you already have a better version of it in here. This is just more accessible. And then 1 SP Little Knight, one of the only other few cards that you're actually going to want to go into in this deck. And as for the side deck, I'm playing 1 of this. You can actually main deck this now because of the Sun and Thunder. You actually have more ways of discarding. One of the issues that the deck had beforehand is if you hard drew this, which I do because I draw bad, you can't actually really get this out very easily. But with Sudden, you can actually now use this as going second to not only set up your board but interact. So it has good options there. It's still insane going second if people don't know what Delta of Invitation does. They're most likely going to ash that, so you bait, but you do what you can. If this resolves, I've won games off this. They'll try to interrupt it, and they read and they go, oh, I can't react to that. Very nice piece for Eldlich right there. I still believe in the 3 Chaos. Malice is still a thing you have to deal with, and I think this gives more value than Lancia. You get to set up your graveyard with this card, and it's just a body on the board. It can conflict, but oftentimes when you are citing that in, you're taking your Inspector, God, I can't think today, your Inspector board off because you are not going first, and Inspector can only do so much, and you can supplement that still with the Typhon, but you just need to get speed and the ability to interrupt. Right now, I'm actually experimenting with 3 copies of this, so I think I've maybe been underestimating this card for a while. I was under the impression that this has to special when it's revealed, but I'm pretty sure you don't. But more importantly, right now, with just how the game is, you just need to be able to get strong bodies on the board and being able to protect your cards. And whether you're assured and you special, you can just get this out and get a free rank 10 out with ease. But also, when your opponent knows what they're going against, this just helps because then it makes their annoying board breakers just less. I mean, you still might lose to just evenly and stuff, but this just gives you that option, and it also fits. It's a very high attacking monster with value that's not actually very hard to get out of the hand, so I've been enjoying it. It feels good to be able to play that. And with more floodgates, 1 goes in because actually with the upcoming format, this will hurt Vanquish Soul K9 insanely. And 1 anti-spell because it's anti-spell. You can honestly take these for any other, but I feel floodgates you have to absolutely play at this point. 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. You use this to just deal with specific stuff. The reason it's just not main deck worthy is the life point cost is too hefty, and seeing 1 of this in a board that you've established is good. You could play the more Charmy cards. I'm still very torn if they actually work or not. I have seen success, and other times they just don't, because you don't actually draw on anything, and your opponent's still going to make a board, and Detonator can still out. Now, I don't have this card yet, but the next card that I would have is the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. I suspect that Mitsurugi is still going to stick around. I think Malice will still stick around, and those hurt those decks immensely. I was tossed between that and Soul Drain, which is also really good and shuts down a lot of the new decks that are going to be coming out in Justice Hunters. But Shadow Imprisoning is a budget option that you can do, and I have a lot of dark attribute decks that just go in my locals, so you can flip one of that and just get a free win. Again, Eldlich is still a floodgate deck, with at least for the trap variant. I don't really see any other way of being able to not play it. You play a lot of power spells. You need to see those spells, and while you do have the options now, a few cool things that the deck can do. I'm actually just waiting for the next ban list to hopefully see either Diagram or, more importantly, Masterpiece go up the rank, as I think they will help with this deck. And, you want to play continuous cards for that. While I think it's in a fine spot. For what it is, it's not a meta deck by any means. It does struggle to go against the best stuff, but there are times where the deck's new stuff really does shine and does help it keep up and give it that nice edge. I think all things considered, this has still been a very solid year for Eldlich. There's been a few niche tops for it. There's a lot of cool things to work with. You have a lot of new traps and a lot of new stuff. Now, personally, I think one thing that would help is another main deck monster that is like treated like Eldlich or something like that kind of helps the engine going. Or more traps, more of those options. But with the current state, it's all right. It's definitely locals bringable. I probably wouldn't bring this to a higher end. It's just not oppressive enough. And because you struggle so often to see those floodgates, even as many as you might play, you can play like Power Sing Stone and all that. For locals, yeah, it'll be fine. You'll probably do better than I will with this deck. But yeah, I'm still a huge fan. I really have enjoyed all the stuff. Currently, there's nothing really on the horizon as of making this where there's going to be any new stuff. I've looked into the sets and stuff that's dropped, but there's just really nothing there that Eldlich can benefit from. But, it's been a hell of a ride for at least 2025 so far for Eldlich. We've had stuff since January coming out and boosting the deck up and giving it all that Delta of Invitation, and then you have Sun and Thunder Swamp, you have the Fallen, you have the new trap, which lets you actually grind with this deck, you have the Wandering Titan, and then of course the Unbanned Masterpiece, which unironically does help really well with Eldlich. And yeah, I mean, you can definitely still experiment around. I still like the trap variant. 60 card variant is, I don't dislike it. I just prefer the trap variant, as this was still one of the first decks I ever brought to a locals. It was 2 years past its prime, but huge fan of Eldlich. Definitely, if anything comes up, I will post it. I will say something about it, as I really do want this deck to see play. I do believe that trap decks should be viable and they should be in the game, even as annoying or oppressive as they could be, as I think every card type should at least see some representation that's straight up just not the dominus cards. But yes, let me know what you think in the comments. If you've seen any success, or if there are any critiques that you have or cards that you think I'm missing, please let me know, and I will talk to you all later.